fair.
And with a winning time of 7 minutes and 9 seconds.
So in this 131st event, Merchant Marine Academy is in lane 1, Nova Southeastern is lane 2, Brock lane 3, Florida Tech is in lane 4, Grand Valley lane 5, and Pittsburgh in lane 6.
And as you look across lane 3, Brock, who looked like it got off to a good start, still has a great advantage over the rest of the field.
Brock at a 35.
The crews,
lane 6, Pittsburgh.
the crews in lane 1, 2, and 3 seem to be out a little on 4, 5, and 6 because there's actually an offset, and that offset is corrected through the turn. You can see lane 4 is steering way too much to the port side. Now they corrected it again. If you look behind, you can see the officials' launches behind the crews really monitor them closely, but Brock clearly is leading this field, and in second place it's going to be fairly close between Nova Southeastern and Florida Tech.
I think Florida Tech is in that second position at this time because they have the
advantage, right?
Lane 4 advantage of starting back a bit. Once we get to the bridge here in the next 200 meters, we'll get very clear understanding.
See the difficulty they were having steering, though. They moved to their starboard side, then they moved sharply back.
Well, and they're a blind boat. They have no one looking forward. Everyone is looking to the stern, and you're actually, as you said yesterday, you're steering as where you've been, not where you're going. So it is a bit challenging. Now here's a good vantage point. They're heading towards the bridge. You can see in our angle there that the crews are coming towards the bridge. This camera angle is from the 1,000-meter mark about halfway through. And again, you see the lane 1 and 2 on the extreme right side of the picture. Then 3 is just to the left of the stone pylon, 4, 5, and you can see that 3 has made the turn, and it appears to be going at a strange angle, but that's actually, they've made the turn, and that's Brock in lane 3, the leader, out in front of the rest of the field. Florida Tech, Grand Valley, Nova Southeastern, Merchant Marine, and Pittsburgh are in this event. Lane 1, Merchant Marine. Lane 2, Nova Southeastern. Brock in 3, Florida Tech from Melbourne, Florida. Lane 4, Grand Valley. Lane 5, and Pittsburgh in lane 6. This is the women's varsity pair. This is the grand final of the women's pair.
And these crews are now feeling a lot better than before they went through the bridge, because any cutting of a lane could result in a disqualification. But as you look across at the crews now, it's clear that Brock has a strong lead on the field, the entire field. As they're approaching the 1,000 meters mark, Brock has several boat lengths lead, and it looks like Pittsburgh in lane 6 is having a fairly strong row, possibly in the second position. But Brock is rowing like 35 and a half strokes per minute. They're really clipping along for a straight pair, and they've just continued with every stroke to separate themselves from the rest of the field. So as they cross the 1,000-meter mark now, Brock has about a 4-length lead over the second place crew, which is bunched closely between Nova Southeastern, Florida Tech, and Pittsburgh. Those crews are really close, and if anyone may have the edge, it looks like it could be Nova Southeastern in second spot, with Pittsburgh in third, Florida Tech close behind, and then in fifth place is Grand Valley.
What's exciting, Bill, other than the Brock boat that's out in front, you really have a battle going on for second, third, fourth, and fifth. I mean, it is as tight as any race we've seen so far. And this is a really challenging race for these women. The boat will probably be about an 8-minute race. So they've just gone past the 1,000-meter mark, and Brock the leader by open water, but still a long way to go.
Yeah, and I can tell, you know, the fourth lane crew, that Florida Tech, they've settled down a lot more. They're getting into a little more increased rate of striking, a little more swing. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they don't eat into that lead that Nova Southeastern University has on them. But it's a very close field with Pittsburgh out in the far lane has held their own. They've done very well in that lane, but as you look at the head-on view, it's clear that Brock is dominant in this field. Brock's just clipping along now at 34 strokes per minute. They can see out of each side and see that they have a clear lead. There's no need in pressing it too hard. It's just watch the crews on either side of you. If one seems to make a move, react to that move to make sure that you're staying ahead.
And exactly right, Bill. You know, you've got, as we go 400 meters to go, that Brock crew is in a really comfortable position without having a coxswain to look around. And as an oarsman, you're not supposed to look out of the boat. But in a pair, someone needs to monitor where they are. So there's a lot going on there. And Brock now in the catbird seat way out in front can see the entire field, but not so much for the rest. You've got the rest. You've got Nova Southeastern. You've got Pittsburgh. They're 4 lanes apart, and they really don't know or can't sense where they are. Pittsburgh would have to look over their shoulder to see the second and third place crews. Pittsburgh currently in third, and Nova Southeastern in second.
Yeah, it's very close. It's who wants to really, you know, take a chance here of the second, third, fourth, and fifth place crews. Nova Southeastern has the silver medal, but if you look over at Pittsburgh,
37.
They've come on really strong now. They're challenging for the second place spot right now. And Grand Valley has moved into the 4th spot. So Grand Valley's looking really strong.
38 for Nova.
Has moved into the second spot.
38.
With Grand Valley taking it up, trying to charge on Nova Southeastern. But Brock a clear winner here. It's going to be really close for the second spot between Nova Southeastern and Pittsburgh. And that's close. That's too close to call for the second spot. And the third spot is Grand Valley. In the 4th spot is Florida Tech. And the 6th spot is Merchant Marine. So, Brad, what's a quick recap of that? Was it Brock, Pittsburgh, Nova Southeastern, Grand Valley, Florida Tech, and Merchant Marine?
It's the best I can call it from this point. It was pretty tight there right at the end. Didn't have a good vantage point without putting an angle on it. So we'll get you a full recap here in a moment.
Okay, the next event of the day has just left the starting blocks, and that's event 132, the men's pair. It is the Bob Nagard Cup.
There we go.
Related to Brad, the announcer, right here.
That's it. Well, I actually won it in 1973, and Dad bought the trophy for that event. That was the first event in 1973.
Definitely want to make sure you had a trophy. So as we get this race underway, looking across the crews, in lane 1 is Merchant Marine, in lane 2 is SUNY, in lane 3 is Oklahoma City, in lane 4 is Canisius, and in lane 5 is Cincinnati, and in lane 6 Clarkson.
Canisius really came out nicely on that. It seems like Canisius and Oklahoma City, look how they've really moved up in the last 10 strokes. Oklahoma seems to have settled in much quicker. Canisius came out at a jumped out, but Oklahoma City is moving up.
You've got Canisius having to move back to its starboard. They've been flagged to move back there in lane 4. So they lost a lot of territory in that jockeying back and forth. And now clearly lane 3 has the lead. You can see a lot of movement back and forth.
Yeah,
But Oklahoma City clearly is rowing the sounder race, straighter course as they go into the dogleg turn. So Oklahoma City, SUNY, Merchant Marine, all fairly solid. But what you do gain is an advantage on the turn. So I believe that Oklahoma City is far enough out that they'll still take the lead through the turn of the.
Yeah, but we're 1/3 of the way through the race at this point, and I will tell you that when our camera angle ends here and you no longer see it, you almost get the sensation you're in the boat, because being a blind boat with that bridge, for those crews that are working right around the bridge pilings, that's scary, because you know they're back there and you're not able to turn around and look at them. You have to just trust yourself that you're going to stay in the center of your lane. And so there was a lot of
lane 4 looks like it's having difficulty with the bridge. I'll have to.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, it is a big, scary bridge, especially when you're going backwards and you can't look at it. But the crew that came through, I guess, is Oklahoma City, seemed to be. That is the third one from the right.
Actually, they're fairly close. It's the course.
Yeah, Kinesis looked like it made a little bit trouble. They had trouble.
Having the most difficulty, but they both broke through fairly even together.
Yeah, good angle here with our monitor now. You can see that that lane 3 is out there in front. That's Oklahoma City. But then you go back to SUNY, possibly in lane 2 as being right there, and the rest
I'm sorry,
Clarkson.
Cincinnati is way out, along with Oklahoma City right now.
Yeah, we got to keep an eye wide open on that outside lane.
Lane 5, but Oklahoma City looks to have over a boat length lead over Cincinnati as they approach the 1,000 meters mark. So Oklahoma City in lane 3 has about a 2 boat length lead over Cincinnati. Cincinnati in turn.
Yeah, here we are at the 1,000 meter mark, so very clear now.
Has a strong lead over SUNY, and then followed by Merchant Marine, and then Clarkson. So Oklahoma City
at 32
surely can be credited with having the straightest race.
Well, and isn't the saying
the
that
lead crews?
straightest, shortest distance is straight line, and they have proved it so far. There was a lot of they were struggling. A lot of crews struggled in that first 700 meters as they approached the bridge with their steering.
So you're now getting a fairly strong separation between the crews, with Oklahoma City way out in front, Cincinnati in second. Looks like SUNY's in the third spot. I would say they're should be fairly close with Canisius. But now they're approaching the 500 meters to go.
Yep, right at 600 meters for the balance of the crew, and Oklahoma City out in front, open water, comfortable. This is the part that you just want to cruise in. You don't want to, you may run your race plan up a little bit, but honestly, they're so efficient at the rating they are. They really don't need to, and they've got a great lead. So that Oklahoma City out in front of the field. Look at, they're carrying their blades very close to the water. They're not touching the water. The boat's set up very, very nicely. Striking strong.
And look at the course. Look at the conditions on the course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just the kind of conditions you would want to have. But Oklahoma City's very strong, very solid. They're not going to, well, I shouldn't say they're not going to take it up, but there's no reason to do anything but to continue at the cadence that they have right now.
But second place.
The second spot, it's getting really close. You can see a lot, particularly Merchant Marine has really increased their rate of striking. They're already up to 37 and a half, 38 in lane 1. SUNY is holding them all pretty solid, but Cincinnati is holding that second position. Cincinnati is
Clarkson
rolling
out in 6. Clarkson
like
out in
about
6.
36 and a half. Solid second spot, just 3 lengths behind Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City didn't like the fact that Cincinnati was moving up, so they took it up to keep that separation. SUNY continues to maintain a boat length lead over Merchant Marine. Canisius is in 5th place with Clarkson in 6th. Oh, he is. The next event is event 133, the Women's Frosh Novice 4. In lane 1, you'll have Drexel University. In lane 2, Clemson. In lane 3, Lafayette. In lane 4, Case. In lane 5, SUNY. And in lane 6, Jacksonville. Crews are just starting to get affixed to the stake boats.
We have the results of
Clemson
event
has
132. The men's
already
varsity
tied on.
pair final. The Bob
Lafayette
Hagar
is on.
The bronze
Jacksonville is on.
going to SUNY Geneseo.
SUNY is on.
The silver going to Clarkson University. And with a winning time of 6 minutes and 50 seconds, the gold goes to Oklahoma City. 4th, Merchant Marine. 5th, Canisius College. And 6th,
Crews seem
Cincinnati.
fairly level across.
On the
Still-
course now, we have
still
event
in a relaxed
133,
position.
the women's freshman novice
Again, this is the final
In
for the
lane
women's
1,
freshman novice 4.
Lane 2, Clemson. Lane 3, Lafayette. Lane 4, Case. Lane
Just a
5,
beautiful day
SUNY
to race.
Geneseo. Lane 6.
I think the rowers appreciate the overcast that we have. No threatening rain in the near future. The crews are lined up. Still just a couple of adjustments. Watching the liner work with each of the stake boats, you know that he or she's going to get it right. Each crew in the center of their lane will cover 2,000 meters. There is a dog leg to the right at about the 700 meter mark. And then the last 1,300 meters is a straight shot to the finish line. There's a slight offset. The offset, if you look at the crews right now, you see lane 1 is ahead of lane 6, just because it's offset. But when they go through the bridge, that's corrected immediately. So crews don't have a real sense of where they are until they get a straight shot from after the bridge, 1,300 meters to the finish line. You can look at lane 1, Drexel. The rowers are still in a relaxed state, so the official hasn't begun polling them to determine their readiness. However, now you can see Drexel start getting in the ready position with the squared oars. So in lane 2 is Clemson, in lane 3 Lafayette, in lane 4 Case, in lane 5 SUNY, and in lane 6 Jacksonville University. And the crews are off. You always like to look across and make sure that there's no blade stuck in the water, which we call a crab. For the first 20 strokes, there didn't seem to be one crew having an advantage over the other. We'll be shifting to the overhead scene, and there it is right now, looking across. Looks like lane 2, Clemson is maintaining its lead with Lafayette, both of them off to a strong start. In lane 4, Case may be moving a little too much to their starboard because you can see the separations between 3 and 4. They need to make that adjustments. But the crew that's really right down the middle of the course is Lafayette. Though it appears in this screen that Lafayette's a little behind, as they make the turn, they'll gain about a deck length lead from the position they presently are in. So in lane 4, Case is really rowing tight to the far side of their lane, to the northwest side of their lane. Now they're moving back a little. It's very important for the coxswain to steer through the number and to be on the right side of the buoys. If they steer outside of that buoy, it can result in disqualification because they will have rowed a shorter distance than the 2,000 meters that are required. Just looking at the crews as they go through the bridge, that means they've covered 700 meters. You can see lanes 1, 2, and 3 heading under the right numbers, their right number, making a sharp turn as they go through the bridge. Lane 3 went through the bridge first from this vantage point. So lane 3 is Lafayette. Look to have a slight advantage over Case in lane 4. Again, this is the Women's Frosh Novice 4 final. So the crews are coming up on about 900 meters into the race. Looking across at Case, Case seems to have moved after they've gone through the bridge. They seem to have taken a nice advantage on the field. And then over in lane 6, Jacksonville is also really solid. So what you have is with that turn in the bridge, you have an opportunity to take an advantage. So I would say as they go past the 1,000-meter mark, Case in lane 4 is the lead, followed very closely by Lafayette and Clemson, and then Jacksonville. So it's a real close race. And again, this is the championship final race for the Women's Freshman Novice 4. Conditions do not favor one lane over another. Looked like Lafayette was first through the bridge, but Case put on a real strong push to take the lead. There's no question that well, I'm going to look at that lane 6. Brad, lane 6 and 5. Isn't it?
In front of five's back a ways, but you know your leaders, as you've said before, lane 2, 3, 4. Those are the ones that are out in front. I think lane 2, Clemson is the leader. I'd say Lafayette second, and Case third. Currently, we're 600 meters to the finish line.
Yeah, they've been a nice jockeying for positions in this race.
34 for Clemson. Jacksonville on the outside, currently fourth.
So they've clearly changed their positions. To lane 2, Clemson now has a clear lead over lane 3, Lafayette. And Lafayette about the same margin, just almost at a boat length lead, each of them. So
Look at their rating. It's just gone up. They're now up quite a bit. Let's see what happens here. They may catch Clemson off guard.
yeah, Lafayette. Clemson staying down there at that 35 strokes per minute. Lafayette's definitely moving back on Clemson.
Lafayette's going by. They're at 38.5. That'd be Lafayette.
Lafayette is at 38.5. Clemson's not being challenged by the Lafayette crew.
And here comes Case. Jacksonville closing in too.
Jacksonville's been solid the entire race. They're in the 4th position right now. So as they go 100 meters to go, you have Lafayette in the lead by 1 boat length over Clemson. And in 3rd spot is Case, followed by Jacksonville in 5.
Look at Clemson is really taking it out.
Clemson just took it up. It's going to be a close finish here. Clemson, be Lafayette, Clemson, Case, SUNY. No, I'm sorry, it's Jacksonville, then SUNY. And in the 6th spot is Drexel University. Event number 34 is backing into the stake boats right now.
This is kind of fun to watch, Bill. I mean, a lot of times you don't get to see this. You see the finishes, but you know, we'll come back and look at that. Their stake boats are pontoon boats that are fixed by anchors in the water. And there we have a great shot of it. This is going to be the men's novice frosh for the grand final is the Lindy Cup, and we're going to have 6 crews in this. Notice the stake boats are pontoon boats, and the stern or the back of the boat is straddles in between those pontoons, and a person laying on the anchored boat reaches down and holds onto the rowing shell. Then the aligner, which their camera angle is really close to the aligner's position, then adjusts, as Bill mentioned a little while ago, forward and back each rowing shell, because rowing shells are not all the same length by the different manufacturers, so they get them all lined up. You'll see the coxswains with their hands up, and actually one of them in lane 3 is sitting up at the moment. So they're getting their last final adjustments and making sure the athletes are ready to go. If you see a coxswain with their hand on the air, that means that their crew is not ready to start. So officials do look for alignment of all the bows.
Western Reserve University.
Make sure that the coxswains are ready.
The silver medal going to Clemson University.
So this is kind of fun.
Winning time of 7 minutes and 36 seconds. The gold going to Lafayette College.
The Lindy Cup.
4th, Jacksonville University. 5th, SUNY Geneseo,
Come up
and
with the
6th,
category
Drexel
of frosh
University.
novice. Frosh
Event
meaning
134 is on the
athlete
course.
that
It's
rode
the
in high
men's
school that is
freshman
in his
novice
freshman year.
4.
A novice means that they are
for the Lindy Cup. In lane 1, University of Delaware. Lane 2, St. Joseph's University. Lane 3, Middlebury College. Lane 4, Mercyhurst University. Lane 5, Drexel University. Lane 6, Fordham University.
I think I was shut off that whole time. I'm going to turn that off. I know when to shut that speaker down.
Oh, wait a minute. Were you muted that whole time?
Okay. 134 men's Frosh Novice 4. They're lined up.
I was just talking and I was on mute.
This race will be off, and they're off.
Yeah, so that's Delaware.
Real quick start by the crews.
Men's Frosh Novice 4, the Lindy Cup.
So a clean start by all the crews. We'll be shifting to our overhead view for the first 500 meters. And then you'll get a relative idea of who's moving best in the first 500. First 500 is an important part of the race as you look across the field from 1 to 6. Right now, there doesn't seem to be, if any crew may be a little advanced, it would be Middlebury in lane 3. They seem to have made up the stagger.